Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment is brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. This is a series of spotlights on remarkable exit planning advisors from across the country. And joining me on this segment is Paul Kyrimis. He's the founder of Legacy Global Strategies. Paul, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Paul, tell us a little bit about your work, and specifically tell us who are the types of clients that you specialize in helping.
Well, I focus with business owners that are probably not even considering exiting, because exiting is not necessarily what we do. We got to transition before we exit. The ideal client for me is, well, the market is broad. It's the lower middle market, which is, look at the revenue side, it's anywhere from 5 to 10 million, all the way up to 100 million, maybe a little bit more. My sweet spot's about 10 million to 50 million in annual revenue for the business. It doesn't mean that I won't work with the lower end. In fact, I do have something that I'm gearing up right now to help those owners out that make less than 5 million, all the way down to even if they're making 100,000. We try to make it affordable because they're the people that need our help the most to grow the business and to get that business out there if they want to sell it eventually.
These folks that you work with, they're great at their craft and they think growth every day, but how much thought do they put into transitioning afterwards or exiting their business? Do they know where to start?
Well, so these people that open up businesses, entrepreneurs, business owners, they're really intelligent, and you nailed it. They're really good at what they do. I always say, if someone starts a business, they are probably the perfect COO for the business. They know all the ins and outs of the widget, the process, the system, whatever they're providing for their clients, right? But yet they don't have the time because they're so developed or devoted to their business. They don't have time to develop a plan to get out. And you nailed it when you said transition. I use the phrase, you need to transition your business before you exit. You need to make it something that is attractive to someone else to come into, and it can stand on its own even without the owner. And that's the biggest thing right there, is the owner concentration of the business, which means the owner wears all the hats and doesn't necessarily delegate the best.
So when it comes to transition planning or exit planning, let's unpack that a little bit, because a lot of folks don't even really realize that's a thing that they should be paying attention to. Can you kind of, give us a 10,000 foot view and explain what it is that's involved and how you help these business owners with those processes?
Yeah, so without getting too deep into it, like you said, first is an assessment. It's done. It takes about 90 days to do. And from this assessment, we're looking at all the strategies that a typical business has, whether it's the sales strategy, marketing strategy, finance, accounting. Big areas of interest are human resource and intellectual property. There's also IT. There's also a couple of different lawyers that are involved with businesses. All these strategies need to be running at 100% or as close to 100% as possible. The assessment that we do, that again takes about 90 days, will create a list of things to do, and we'll prioritize from most important to some that can wait. And then we go in and what I do is we look at the internal talent pool within the business. And let's just say it's an HR question. Let's say the assessment says you're running at about 58%. You want to be at 100. So there's that gap there. We focus on the gap. We look internal to their HR department, what they have going on for it right now. And if they don't have anybody internally that can proceed through the next 90 days to correct whatever the HR situation is in this case, then we look to the owner, say, do you know anybody? What about your other business owners? Do they have anybody you can reach out to? If not, I've got a team of people that I can bring in for any of those strategies. But we really want to go with what the owner knows, who he knows, he or she, to really make it more comfortable for them, and to let the internal people know, hey, this is a good thing. The transition before the exit is really where you're going to make your mark in the business.
From what it sounds like, if we're optimizing everything as close to 100% as we can, it almost sounds like there's never a bad time to do this. Is it really just for exit planning, or can you do this from the beginning of starting your business? When's the right time?
Yeah, it's right. The end in mind, right? That's a very good phrase that's been around business. Think with that end in mind. it really is valuable if you start this process right from the get-go, which is kind of what I'm thinking when I'm doing that under $5 million, those types of businesses. Get them, we're going there, but it's never too late to correct. It's never too late to improve because, like I said, the biggest thing is the owner concentration. He or she's trying to do all these things that I just list off all the strategies, and they can't. And someone looking to buy the business, if those things aren't running on their own without the owner's influence and helicoptering over those strategies on a daily basis, the person looking in is going to say, well, that's going to bring down the value. I'm not going to pay so I can just work, 70, 80, 100 hours a week.
Paul, what inspired you to get into this field and help businesses with their transitions? How did you get started in this?
Yeah, it was, I would say it was sometime before 2016. I'd been working with small business owners in a different area, in a financial aspect. And in the year of 2016, I believe it was, there were two business owners that came to me after the fact, said, Paul, I sold my business. Man, here, I want you to meet the new owners. And, because I wasn't involved, I kind of got displaced on those things. That generated my interest. And then in 2017, I was, in Southern California. There's a great institute there. It's called Southern California Institute, brought on by Joseph Siri. And they do a fantastic presentation that they've got all kinds of advisors and centers of influence that business owners should be involved with. All the attorneys, HR people. But then I ran into Chris Snyder and Scott Snyder. They were presenting there. They had a booth, and of course they own the Exit Planning Institute. And that's really where I learned about, wow, man, how can I didn't realize all these things that the business owners needed to do. So that's what drove the business. My personal experience of being kind of pushed out of the way once the shell was done. I wanted to be in the front of that thing, so at least I could maintain my business with that particular institution. So it just made sense to me to go ahead and get designated in 2017, in August of 2017, actually, with the Exit Planning Institute, and get, obtained my SEPA. And, it's been a great experience the past 3 years with different advisors that have their SEPA or they don't have their SEPA. They just want to be involved with the exit plan of the institution of the business.
Fantastic. Before I ask you my last question, is there anything regarding exit planning or transition planning that I didn't think to ask you that you feel is important to share with business owners today?
Well, I think I might mention that the way I view it with my business owners that I talk with is that the different ways to exit are not clear to the business owner. There's 8 ways that you would consider. We might know about those, whether it's an IPO to actual shuttering the business, and there's plenty of, some others in between, 7 steps in between that. And then there's the downsides, which are the things that can actually kick you out of the business, which are the 5 Ds, as you call them: death, divorce, disability, disillusionment, and distress. The stress can be economic distress. Just think the past 2.5 years, 3 years, the pandemic, what has that done, right? So all those have an effect on value, but even the ones where they get an unsolicited offer from a competitor or from somebody that's just trying to do what they're doing. And this leads all to what I think is probably the most important thing, is that I try to create a strategy for the business transition before the exit to work in all circumstances, all of those ways to exit.
Sage advice. Paul, for business owners listening that are considering transitioning now or in the near future and would like to speak with you, how can they find you and connect?
Very easy on the web. It's you can type out Legacy Global Strategies, or you can shorten it up to lgstrat.com. That's lgstrat.com. You can find me there, or you can give me a call, 480-770-6115. Again, 480-770-6115.
Paul, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Hey, well, thanks for having me, and I look forward to speaking to you shortly as well.
That was Paul Kyrimis, the founder of Legacy Global Strategies. And this segment was brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.